Vaughn saw the woman make a deliberate gesture of checking her watch. Curious, he watched to see what would happen next. The next time striped banker shirt came up for air, she quickly jumped into the conversation with a smile. The smile temporarily silenced striped banker shirt, as well it should. She had a gorgeous smile. It was about this time that Vaughn really began paying attention to her, instead of the awkward but interesting to watch and pass the time circumstances of their date. Her auburn hair fell past her shoulders in a stylish, layered cut. In fact, everything about her looked stylish and put together, from her ivory ruffled blouse to her sleek gray pencil skirt to the light summer scarf around her neck. He guessed her to be in her early 30s and in some kind of professional occupation, given her well-tailored clothes and classic heels. In other words, she was smart, attractive, and seemingly single. He could work with this. After a few moments, striped banker shirt stood up from the table, gesturing emphatically as if to say, "No problem, I have somewhere to be too." And obviously he had places to go because not only was he good-looking and funny with a fancy job, but he was important too. Sure. Now Auburn had a decision to make. She could take the easy way out, email me, let's do this again, and then never write the guy back. Or she could go for the more awkward but honest, this was nice, but I'm just not feeling a connection between us. Striped banker shirt pointed to his phone. How about I call you sometime? Then he waited to see if he was in. Vaughn waited along with him. The woman shook her head regretfully. Vaughn's interest shot up fivefold. As a man who valued honesty in his own relationships, he liked this woman's style. It took balls to go with the truth in these circumstances. Striped banker shirt clearly had not expected the rejection, and for that, Vaughn was sympathetic. He watched as the guy asked the woman a question, ironically choosing this moment to finally give her an opportunity to speak. She appeared to answer graciously, saying something that made him nod and, with a bit of a bewildered expression, head for the door. As soon as he left, she let out a sigh of relief and took her cell phone out of her purse. Vaughn watched as she crossed one long leg over the other, getting comfortable in her chair. It would be a shame to let a woman like that end her Friday night on such a sour note. Well, that had been unfortunate. Sidney Sinclair texted her best friend Trish, who'd helped her create her dating profile last Saturday night over a bottle of Pinot Noir. At the time, the idea of online dating had struck her as fun and exciting, and maybe it would still prove to be that, but thus far she was batting 0 and 1. Bachelor number 1 is a no-go, she texted Trish. He talked too much. Within seconds, Trish texted back, "Isn't talking a good thing on a first date?" Of course, Trish was trying to put a positive spin on things. As the happily married with child best friend of a single 33-year-old woman, it was part of the job description. As in donkey from Shrek too much, Sidney typed back. Ouch, that's not good. No kidding. William, a.k.a. Bachelor number 1, had seemed to have a lot of potential. As a trader, he was in the investment business. Right there, they'd had some common ground, something they, meaning her included, could talk about. And he'd said he liked to travel, go to the movies, and enjoyed trying new restaurants in the city, all of which fell solidly in the plus column. What he hadn't mentioned in his profile was that he liked to talk about these things in mind-numbing detail. Not that Sidney couldn't appreciate that people sometimes got nervous on first dates and might possibly talk a lot to compensate for that, but William hadn't seemed nervous so much as full of himself, and that definitely merited a big old pass in her book. One of the things Sidney had decided, now that she was